Years ago, my parents abused me in every sense of the word. Physically, psychologically, emotionally, and sexually. Unfortunately, it happened again. And today, I'm going to tell you about it, the way I should have told you before. In 2022, I met a woman. I can't say her name here on YouTube because YouTube keeps censoring it every time I do. But I loved her more than anything in the world. She was a bartender. I don't drink very much, but I went to that bar more times than I can remember just to see her. Women would come up and flirt with me, women who were wearing far less than she was. But all I wanted was to hold her hand, talk to her, and get lost in her eyes. In our conversations, I learned that she had recently gotten a place of her own. I learned she was single and not really seeing anyone. She was looking forward to being on her own for a little while, building a solid, independent foundation for her adult life. I learned that she was neurodivergent, like me. I learned that she and I shared similar tastes in classic computer games and television shows. Millsbury, Broderbund, Avatar: The Last Airbender. She was determined in her pursuit of an education. Whenever she wasn't cleaning or serving drinks, she could often be seen doing homework on her laptop computer. I was so proud of her, in awe of her. I could never have focused on my studies with so much noise and distraction. I had grown up with opportunities she didn't have, and I wanted to share my privilege with her. The bar in question was located inside a gentleman's club. I had been going there since the mask mandates were lifted in 2021. In conversing with the dancers, I knew the club had been known to pressure girls into going into private rooms with customers and doing pretty much whatever it took to convince the customers, even when the dancer or the customer didn't really want to. But I also knew that going into a private room with a dancer gave me a chance to talk to her with fewer distractions, get to know her, even hold her close and sometimes cuddle her. And I wanted to get to know this woman, to talk to her more, to hold her close, to cuddle her, more than anything in the world. But I was too afraid to ask her out on a date like a normal person would. So instead, I encouraged her to be a dancer. That is the worst mistake I have ever made in my life. Though we did get to spend more time together, and she literally got paid for that time, the drawbacks of that job were not worth the perks. The club would not allow her to spend time with me anywhere except in the club. They initially tried to convince us that she would be charged with solicitation if we hung out anywhere else. But after I proved them wrong through legal research, they were more direct in their threats to fire her if we hung out anywhere but the club. To make matters worse, her career at the club became so all-consuming that she dropped out of university. When she told me about that, I knew my influence had led her on a path to financial ruin. Without an education, her other career options would be marginal at best, and her career in adult entertainment would become less profitable as her outer beauty began to fade. But as I tried to correct my mistake, as I encouraged her to start taking classes again, she started feeling like I was judging her. Maybe I was saying it the wrong way, or maybe she was so entrenched in the club that she rejected all sound career advice as nonsense. But all I wanted was for her to be happy in the long term, and I knew the club would never get her there. Fortunately, I found ways around some of the limitations the club placed upon us. Oftentimes, I would just cuddle with her when we were in a private room together, so she didn't have to act sexual for all that time. It made me sore afterwards because the couches were not long enough for me to lay down properly. But for her, I was willing to lay there instead of the comfort of a bed. One evening, I ordered some food for her and I, so we could have a dinner date of sorts together. I ended up eating most of it. I don't know why she ate so little that night, but I did the best I could, and, well, the best the club would allow me to do anyway. I also managed to bring in a computer game from our childhood that she said she really enjoyed playing at our local library. It was Carmen Sandiego, not the mobile app they have now, but the CD-ROM game from the late 90s. I couldn't bring in a period-appropriate computer, but after a full day of working at it, I managed to get the game running on my phone. The controls we had to use were not perfect, but the game was playable, and she said she had a good time. She even taught me something about that game I didn't know. You can actually look up information in-game. You don't have to use a book or an external website or anything like that. The information you need to play the game is in the game. She taught me something new about computers. Interesting that. Huh. Anyways, she disappeared for a few months. No explanation, no goodbye, just gone, all of a sudden. Lacking any real way to check on her, I could only assume she had left because our diverging priorities in life were too much for her to bear. And so I tried to move on, began seeing another woman. When she reappeared out of the blue and asked if I'd like to see her in the club once again, I jumped at the opportunity. My heart was leaping with joy. But just a few days before our planned rendezvous, I was informed that she was 6 months pregnant. Knowing that we had always kept our bottoms on during our encounters, I knew there was no way I could have gotten her pregnant, and her pregnancy meant that she had been doing it with someone else. In other words, she had lied when she said she wasn't seeing anyone else. Feeling that I could no longer trust her, I attempted to cancel our plans together. Immediately, she flew into a rage. I had never seen her so furious before. She accused me of abandoning her because she was pregnant, just like so many other men do. She accused me of being a bad friend, a shitty person, etc., etc. In hindsight, she was guilting me into coming to see her even though I didn't want to. And it worked. It was April when I came into the club to see the pregnant, lying girl I was helplessly in love with. Though I had several questions, one in particular that I asked of her was this: what is the status of the father? I asked this question in an open-ended way on purpose. If something had happened to her that she did not want, she could tell me. If she had been seeing someone the whole time, this was her chance to be honest. If she had hooked up with someone and he wasn't going to be involved in her life or the child's, this was her chance to ask me to step in. Her response was, he's supportive. We did cuddle that night. Being in her arms, my head over her shoulder, was the only way I could keep her from seeing me quietly weep. After our cuddle, she said she would send me a nude photograph of herself, so I'd have something to remember her by. In that club, it was customary for a dancer to be compensated when a dancer sent a customer such a photograph, so I handed her a $50 bill. I remember it distinctly because I didn't encounter $50 bills very often, still don't as of this taping. And I also remember it because she never sent the photo I'd paid for. In the months that followed, I learned that she had married the man who got her pregnant. I wondered, how could she marry the man who would so carelessly sabotage her career like that? Pregnancy causes permanent changes to a woman's body that most men find less attractive. Stretch marks, discolored nipples, sagging in certain areas, the stomach too, not just the boobs. The fewer men who find her outwardly attractive, the less earning potential she has as a dancer. That is why she and I remained celibate for each other. Though I did want her to have as many future career opportunities as possible, I did not want to jeopardize her dancing career by getting her pregnant. In July, she returned to the club and again asked if I'd like to see her. Though I was reluctant, she knew just how to lure me in. She knew that I'd never tried breast milk before, at least not that I could remember, and she knew that I'd been curious as to what it was like. Still lactating from the baby she'd had a few weeks prior, she offered to let me try some. I agreed, and I also agreed that I would shave for her, so that my facial hair wouldn't bother her sensitive areas. Before we adjourned to a private room, she mentioned that she had been unable to send me a nude photograph due to a technical issue with the Instagram app. This was no excuse because she had me on Snapchat as well, and she could have sent it on there, but I went with it and suggested that maybe she could do a strip dance for me, which I could record with the camera I had snuck in my shirt pocket. We spoke at length about what she and I would do. I asked her, "Is this something you'd like to do for me?" And she said yes. We selected a room with no security camera in it, so that the club wouldn't catch me recording her, and so they wouldn't catch her breastfeeding me. She closed the curtain, I began recording, and she began dancing up against it, removing the top part of her bodysuit in the process. I wish I could show you that tape because she was looking directly into the camera. She knew I was recording and she was consenting. When she finished dancing, I put the camera on the coffee table next to me, with the lens facing the couch. In the minutes that followed, she accidentally squirted her breast milk onto the couch and nervously wiped it up with some napkins. I tried several times to seal my lips around her nipple without letting my teeth touch it, and eventually I was able to taste her milk. To understand what it's like, you must forget everything you know about store-bought milk. The texture of her milk was more akin to that of water. Its temperature was warm, very warm, not cold like we're used to. As for its taste, either it wasn't strong enough for me to detect, or I am unable to remember it, likely due in no small part to what happened next. After she finished breastfeeding me, she asked if she could try giving me a massage with her whole body. I said, okay, we can try it. And she had me lay face down on the couch. Since I was much taller than the length of that couch, my body was in a J shape. My feet and legs were against the wall beside it, and my forehead was buried in the opposite arm. My right arm was pinned against the back of the couch, and since the couch was not deep enough for us to be moving on it like that without falling, my left hand was way down on the floor to steady us. She got on top of me. And she started rubbing her unclothed body against me. Her legs were on either side of me, and she was too heavy for me to lift, so I couldn't leave unless she let me out. The rub of her bare chest on my upper back gave way to pelvic dry humping on my lower back. The dry humping really fucking hurt. I said, ow. She didn't stop. I said it again, ow, more sharply and louder this time. She didn't stop. I said ow 6 times in all, but she still did not stop. Eventually, I just mentally went somewhere else. It was like I was in this empty void of dark, black nothingness. I was vaguely aware of my own presence, but I could not see or hear anything. People use the term dissociating to describe that sensation, and I've used it as well, but it's a term that you really can't know what it means until it happens to you. What angers me most about this attack is that the whole time she was endangering me, I was thinking of her safety. I kept using my arm to support us because I didn't want us to fall. I did not kick her because I didn't want to hurt her. I didn't yell for a bouncer because I didn't want to get her in trouble. And for a long time, I didn't tell anyone what had happened because I thought she would lose her job, her freedom, and her kids if I reported that incident. Excuse me just a moment. I hope you'll pardon the interruption there. I had to excuse myself to the bathroom for a moment, and I've also had to change my shirt because I ended up getting a little sick on the other one. But anyways, I think I'm ready to continue, so I'll keep going. A few days after that incident, the one where she hurt me real bad on my back, you know. A few days after that incident, I told her I needed a break from her. She continued messaging me nevertheless. At first, I did not respond, but then things changed. In September of 2023, I returned home from church to find one of her managers standing there, smoking a cigarette right out front like he owned the place. Though she insisted that she had nothing to do with it, it happened just hours after she'd sent me an unwanted message, and she knew where I lived because she'd carded me before. Fearing what she might do if she continued to feel ignored, I resumed messaging her. I asked her to meet me somewhere neutral, somewhere public, well-lit and safe, so we could talk face to face. But she refused to meet me anywhere except that damn club. The club where she'd gotten away with hurting me. The club that had torn us apart. I wanted to confront her about what had happened in July. I wanted to believe there was some explanation for it, that she didn't mean to hurt me or something. I wanted to believe that she would acknowledge the pain and suffering that she had caused me, apologize, and make amends. Ultimately, she never did any of those things. Eventually, in November of 2023, I decided enough was enough. I called the Treasure Club to report her misconduct. I spoke to a manager there, a different one, not the one who had shown up to my home, and I told him what had happened. He stated that she had spoken to him earlier that day and falsely claimed that I had been harassing her, almost to the point of stalking, he said. As far as I know, she was allowed to continue working at that club despite my report. In the few months that followed that telephone call, my mental health remained in decline, as it had since April of 2023. Maintaining gainful employment proved impossible for me. I found myself going out less and going to different stores than usual because I was afraid of running into one of her cronies. I learned that the man who got her pregnant was a bouncer at that club. And having met the guy, my first reaction was, she can do so much better. I learned that she married him in January of 2023. When she told me in April that her baby's father was supportive, she wasn't telling the whole truth then either. I learned that she later had a second child. Knowing what kind of person she is, the fact that she had one was worrisome enough. And I learned most of those things because I started going to a second club instead of the one where she attacked me. I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to cuddle with someone who worked at that second club. Being a former cop, I guess Cuddle Buddy knew the whole solicitation charge thing was bogus too. And Cuddle Buddy warned me that my rapist, who used to be my love, had begun working at that second club instead of the one where she attacked me. I have since lost contact with the people I met at that second club, presumably because she's continued to spread terrible lies about me. And to this day, she still hasn't apologized, and she still hasn't made amends for violating me in some of the worst ways I have ever experienced. Speaking of apologies, it's worth noting that I waited over a year for one before I first disclosed her actions to the public. I also made attempts to resolve the issue in a more private manner, first by trying to arrange a conversation with her, which she refused, then by talking to her manager at the club, which again did not lead to an acceptable resolution. If she had apologized and made amends, if she had worked with me to resolve the matter privately, I would have felt no need to go public. Moreover, had it not been for her actions, particularly those in July of 2023, there would have been no reaction from me. But as much as I wanted to believe this was all just a bunch of big mistakes that we could eventually correct together, I could only go by the information I had in front of me. That information told me that she genuinely believed what she did was okay, and that she will do it again if given the opportunity. That's why I warned as many people as I could about her and the types of behavior she exhibited. I wanted to make sure other people didn't get hurt the same way she hurt me. Towards the end, she said that she considered me a friend. If she treated me like that, imagine what she must have been doing to the customers she didn't consider a friend. Or, God forbid, to her husband and their child. I am sorry for encouraging her to become a stripper. Maybe if she hadn't started stripping, she wouldn't have felt the need to drop out of university. Maybe if she hadn't started stripping, she would not have done it with one of the bouncers, and in turn, she would not have gotten pregnant, and she would not have felt the need to marry a questionable man for the sake of her financial future and for the sake of their child. And maybe if it hadn't been for those things, she would not have felt as frustrated in life, and she would have not felt the need to take that frustration out on me. But even though I can own my part in what happened, and I believe I have, I cannot take responsibility for her choices or any natural consequences they may have led to. That will be up to her. In my opinion, being sexually violated is a fate worse than death. When you die, that's it. No more pain, no more suffering, it all just stops. But when someone sexually violates you, you have to live with that for the rest of your life. The trauma, the PTSD, and everything that comes with it. Struggles with employment, thoughts of suicide, not knowing if you'll ever be able to open yourself up to being intimate with someone again. And to make matters worse, the same laws and policies that are ostensibly meant to protect people from sexual exploitation also enable predators to silence their victims. This is the society we live in now, one where predators and narcissists reside in the highest positions of government and authority. One where deception and other forms of toxic behavior get you popular and promoted. One where in both cases, the resulting power is almost invariably used for evil. A while ago, someone told me that my voice is the most powerful tool I have. I will continue to use my voice to oppose these atrocities, to educate the public on the perils of abuse, to warn the community about the dangerous people within, and to let other survivors know that they are not alone for as long as I am able.